What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another book haul video. This time we are covering, as one might have predicted, my book haul for December 2022, and more specifically Christmas, because all of the books that I obtained, or nearly all of the books that I obtained in December, were some form of Christmas gift. One of them technically was not a Christmas gift, but I had it wrapped for Christmas anyway. And then another one is going to be a very special item that wasn't a Christmas gift and actually wasn't supposed to come last month in the first place anyway. But we'll get to all of that in due time. It's been a year of very fun book haul videos that I've got to cover and do, and just the absurd amount of books that I obtained in 2022 alone. I bought myself a lot of books in 2021, but I would not be inclined to go back and look at all of the book haul videos, or at least all of my book haul lists from 2022, and you know, count up all of the items that I obtained in some way, shape, or form. Because my bookshelves behind me are enough of a indicator that I have a book collection problem, despite my very slow reading pace. But all things considered, that's not really important. For the moment, I just want to go ahead and in advance thank a few friends who did gift me some items, including Ash, Allie, Patrick, and Reen, I believe, were the ones that gifted me stuff. If there was another one somewhere, it will be noted otherwise. Oh yes, and Celine, of course. I don't know why I didn't put Celine in that list. So Allie, Ash, Patrick, Reen, and Celine all gifted me stuff for Christmas. Thank you guys. I appreciate that so much. Speaking of, let's actually go through all of the gifts that I received for Christmas first, with item number one being The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, my fourth set of these. You can probably see on the shelf behind me, if I move my chair just enough, you can see the special edition one binding with the red pages right there, and then these with the Alan Lees. I have some movie edition mass market paperbacks up on the very top of the shelf out of frame. So these make the fourth edition of Lord of the Rings. And the reason that I had these on my wish list in the first place, as I explained to Allie, was that because I really liked the art that these editions showcase. And I was like, well, I kind of want to have that set now. And I didn't want to have to try to justify to myself a reason for ordering a fourth edition of Lord of the Rings after I had already bought both of those two sets that you can see on the shelves. But with that being said, I actually think that if/when I ever do rereads of Lord of the Rings in the future, I think this edition of the series might actually be the editions that I go ahead and use for the reread. When I read them for the first time all the way through in November 2021 through January of 2022, I actually read them with the mass market editions that I got, because I don't believe I actually got either of those special editions until after I'd read them. If I did, I got them while I was in the middle of reading and didn't want to use them for my specific reading. But since these are normal sized paperbacks that actually seem to be fairly nice quality in terms of the floppiness of the paper, so that they wouldn't get all bent up and whatnot, if I ever reread Lord of the Rings, this will be the edition that I do it from. So thank you, Allie, for that gift. But then just a side note, while I'm actually putting these in their little box, I've never had a set of books that I've ever bought or gotten from anybody where the books fit so tightly, and the condition and style of the covers has made it so difficult to get the books in and out of the box. Because holy cow, trying to get these books out of the box is a pain in the butt. Like, ugh, there we go. Now they're in. And there you go, Allie, just like I promised, they are in frame of video. That means that they will occasionally, sometimes, usually be blocked by me in my chair, but they are still visible, so you're welcome. Moving on to item number two, being a very, very, very short book, if you can even call it that, being Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This is not the first Stephen Graham Jones item that I've been gifted in the past, and in fact, I actually have the other one waiting right over here. I didn't intend to show it in video, but let me grab it. Several months back, Patrick gifted me Flush Boy as kind of a meme, but people like Allie who have read it say it's unironically good. But, you know, Night of the Mannequins was another one that I was getting pestered by, say, Celine, who gifted me this book to add it to my wish list. So I knew without a doubt that she was going to give me this because she asked about it like 3 times before I actually remembered to do it. This thing is like barely 130 pages, and the font size is pretty big, and the margins are gigantic. Like, this, even I think I could read this in one day if I wanted to, even with my very slow reading pace. That doesn't mean I'm going to read it in one day, and that doesn't mean I'm fitting it in soon, but there's a good chance that I do a Stephen Graham Jones type of uh, binge, to an extent, if you can even call it that, in October 2023 for spooky season. More on that in a second, though. The next item that I was gifted this month was Department 19 by Will Hill, and this was a gift from big sister Ashley. Thank you for this. This was a book that I actually have a tiny bit of experience with in, I want to say it was 8th grade, somewhere in that 7th, 8th, or 9th grade range or so. I saw these books in my school library, and they looked kind of cool, the concept-wise. I actually started reading this one, but it was a book that I was afraid that if my mom found it, she would be very mad, so I didn't ever finish it. But I was very interested and intrigued by what I was reading, and I decided, hey, maybe I'll actually go ahead and give this a shot sometime. And given how large the font is in this book, I forget how... I'm always dumbfounded by how large the font can be in some YA books. So even though this thing's like 530, 540 pages, it's maybe the equivalent of your average, say, adult fantasy book being maybe 300 pages or something like that, just in terms of how many words are in each page. But I look forward to giving Department 19 a shot sometime when I'm interested in some vampire-related hunting stuff. But we'll see whenever that happens. Thank you, Ash. But also from Ash, I'm going to mention you again. She got me a second gift. Thank you very much for that. She gifted me Shogun by James Clavell from the Asian Saga. This was one that I did not realize was this chonky. It's like 1,200 pages. Yeah, 1,150 pages or something like that. Not one that I had any plans to read anytime soon, but having this edition in my hand makes me want to just start reading it immediately for some reason. It's just so beautiful and attractive. Like all of these, what's the publisher's name? I think it's Black House or something like that. Blackstone. The Blackstone publishing versions of the Asian Saga are so attractive, and I've like highly considering getting the rest of these just to have them on the shelf because they look really nice. But yeah, I want to get to Shogun sooner than I otherwise ever would have planned to, just because of how slick this looks, and because apparently it's one that most people who have read it really enjoy. So that's one that I hope to get to sometime. Moving on to item number 5, no surprise as a gift from the one and only Patrick, is another Stephen Graham Jones book, but the controversial one, The Only Good Indians, the one that it seems like just as many people who read it absolutely despise it as really enjoy it. Like I said, I might actually decide to just do a thing for spooky season this year in October, doing something where I read my 3 Stephen Graham Jones books that I now have, even though 2 of them are really short, for October. That way I have some time to get through them and also space them out a little bit in case, I don't like this one, for instance, since this one seems to be rather controversial. But either way, this edition of the book is actually a bit more slick than I was expecting it to be. Like, I like the quality of the cover. Pretty much everything about it just feels nice. So that's, very cool to at least have. Thank you, Patrick, for gifting me The Only Good Indians. But also, thank you to Patrick for gifting me Comanche Moon by Larry McMurtry. Sorry, I got stuck up on the name there for a split second. This is at least the second chronological order book in the Lonesome Dove saga. I now have books 2 and book 4. The only issue is, if you remember from my October/birthday book haul video, this does not match my edition of the book 4, which makes me severely disappointed. Both these editions and the edition of the 4th book, Streets of Laredo, that I have are the same publisher and are the same size. So they fit together, just not cover-wise, which I mean, like, it slightly bugs me. Honestly, it does. But I'm not going to be too upset because people were kind enough to gift me both of these books back. Eco back for my birthday got me Streets of Laredo. Patrick this month with Comanche Moon. I appreciate you guys. I'll just deal with having an unmatched set. Maybe I'll specifically get Lonesome Dove and Dead Man's Walk, I believe the first one is called, in even different editions from these two, just to make the chaos more chaotic for my sake. Because if it's all chaos, I can deal with it a little bit more than if it's just a tiny bit. Either way, that was the second gift from Patrick. Item number 7 on this list is the last of the gifts that I received from friends. Thank you to all the friends again. This was an item that I actually wasn't expecting. From the way that I was talking with both Patrick and Reen especially about a book saga, I guess, called Journey to the West that Reen really enjoys, I was actually expecting for Patrick and Reen to coordinate and get me the different volumes of Journey to the West, but they surprised me, obviously, with the two gifts that I showcased from Patrick, and especially from Reen, who gifted me Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan, but in a different set than I had originally. This is the hardcover set with the same covers of the series that I have. Let me grab the paperbacks real quick. This is a series that I obviously really love. I did review it on the channel, a video that nobody has watched, which is fine. But this is a series that I really enjoy, and I've had this paperback edition for several years. This is what my mom got me for Christmas several years ago. I didn't learn until recently that these covers had hardcover versions. Once I discovered that, I went onto Amazon and looked and found them and decided to put them on my list because, like, I've been wanting to actually finish my Rick Riordan, more or less finish my Rick Riordan hardcover collection because I have most of his other books in their original hardcover versions, but I do not like the covers, the original cover art for Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So I decided that I would not get those in hardcover. But once I discovered that the covers that I do like of this series have hardcover versions, I can't believe I didn't know this. But once I figured that out, I was like, I'm going to get those. So now all I have to do is get a few of the Heroes of Olympus books and their original hardcover versions, and then I'll be set with my Riordan collection. So that's what these are. And compared to the paperback set, these hardcover set has a relatively nice box to it compared to the paperbacks, like I said. So thank you to Reen for that. I am very happy to now have some hardcovers. Say I'm a more true Riordan fan than I already was. And now we move on to the back half of this list, which is made up of stuff that was mostly gifts from family. But before we get to the gifts from family, I'll get into the item that was actually in the thumbnail of this video, being the new Sun Eater release by Christopher Ruocchio, Ashes of Man, Book 5 of the Sun Eater. This was one that I was actually very excited to get because when I ordered Kingdoms of Death, I hadn't actually started reading Sun Eater yet. So by the time I got to this one, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and pre-order this one specifically to get from Quail Ridge Books and have a personalized edition. And you might have been able to see in the thumbnail, it says yet another aneurysm for KC. KC obviously being me, King Crusoe, with the signature and date. And the reason I asked for that personalization was because while I was reading Howling Dark at the time that I pre-ordered, that book probably gave me about 3 aneurysms. And I decided that based off of what everybody said of the rest of the books that I would continue to have more aneurysms. So I decided to personalize this as such. And furthermore, when book 6 is available for pre-order, whenever that happens, I'm probably going to pre-order that and ask Ruocchio to write the final aneurysm on it. But either way, this cover is super dope. I'm going to be reading Kingdoms of Death this month, Ashes of Man in February. I cannot wait, even though I'm not ready for continued pain with this series, because wow. Ruocchio is killing me, man. Next up, item number 9 is Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo, which is basically the Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is one that after I read Les Mis and absolutely adored it, I decided that because Victor Hugo wrote Hunchback of Notre Dame, that I would go ahead and give this a shot and see if it's anywhere near as quality. There's really not much else to say about it, just the fact that I wanted to read this knowing that it was Hugo after I loved Les Mis so much, and it being a story that I was interested in reading at some point in time anyway. So I finally decided to have this one be a pickup because of that. Item number 10 is Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. This was one that after playing the God of War Ragnarok, which came out pretty recently, based off of some people's recommendations of knowing original mythology, I decided not to wait for that because why would I wait for that when I wanted to play the game so bad? Either way, I decided that being such a big fan of ancient history and especially mythology, that getting to know at least a little bit more of some of the reference to mythology to an extent with an author who is pretty prolific, at least, and in a volume that seems pretty short and concise, I figured it would be a good option for me looking to start exploring and learning more about Norse mythology. Obviously, this almost certainly isn't an end all be all of any of the Norse mythos. However, it is a good place for me to start, I would assume. And that's why I decided to put that on my wish list. Item number 11 is a hefty boy. It is dense. This paper is dense, so it makes this book a lot heavier than you would think it would be. The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is one that I have no clue if I plan to read it anytime soon. In fact, I most likely don't, but was one that because of the similar artwork and publishing style, I wanted to have it for my Lord of the Rings collection, and also just so that I could get to it eventually, because back several years ago when I first tried reading Lord of the Rings, I knew that I wanted to, but that was also before I knew that what the Silmarillion kind of was. So the fact that I do now means that I can prepare for it a little bit better. The only downside to this specific edition is that the illustrations, it doesn't seem like this one's Alan Lee. It's in a style that's close enough to the Alan Lee covers that I have of the full series back there, and almost all of the rest of the J.R.R. Tolkien HarperCollins set that comes in this style are done by Alan Lee, so I'm not sure why this one entry isn't by Alan Lee. Either way, the art looks close enough, and the fact that it has a somewhat different art style looks nice. Not necessarily in terms of how it looks, but the fact that it's more of this red and orangey color compared to the more, natural beauty colors, or at least the dark of like the two towers you'll see back there. But, it looks a little bit less natural in some sense, but it still looks nice on the shelf. But, anyways, moving on to the final physical item that I received for Christmas this year, being a set of Fablehaven by Brandon Mole. This did come in a box set, but I already ruined the box because some certain box sets come in very flimsy, not good condition, where if you pick it up wrong at all, it'll just completely snap and tear. That's what mine did. Not that it's that big of a deal. I tend to not keep the super low quality paper boxes for these sets anyway, just because they're a hassle to work with. I kind of wish I had these books with the original covers because they look, in my opinion, a lot better than these editions do specifically. But this is a series that I do have some experience with. I did read books 1 and 2 several years ago. I think I started book 3, but that was at the time where if I read too much of any one series or world or style or something like that, I was very likely to temporarily DNF a series. That's what happened with these. I plowed through books 1 and 2, and I got through book 3, and I just got super bored and then never finished. That happened to me a lot when I was a little bit younger. So here's this set. This is one that I do actually want to go back and finish reading, obviously, especially since this is one of the few books that my little brother still really enjoys. In fact, he has his own set of these covers, but my little brother is the type that will, treat books as if they have been read, which is to say that after he has read them once, they look about 15 times worse than my books look after I have read them 15 times. It's kind of insane how poor condition his set of these books were after just one read, but after he got through a second or maybe even a third read of them, I can't remember, like this book specifically, you can't even tell what it's supposed to say on the cover because of how broken and torn the spine is, essentially. It's kind of funny. I mean, obviously, the fact that he read and loved those books so much is very good. I'll appreciate that he actually read them and used his books rather than, not reading them. Either way, that's besides the point. The final item on this list is a little bit different. You'll notice that when I talked about Fablehaven that I said it was the last physical edition. I said that for a very specific reason because the last one is an ebook. I am not an ebook type of person. I don't enjoy reading online, and I don't particularly enjoy reading on screens, and especially not on devices where there are other distractions that can be made available to somebody. So, for this one, this is only on here because I got it. I got an email for it on December 31st, that evening. So instead of getting it on the first of the month like I expect that I was technically supposed to, question mark, I actually got it in December, so that's why I'm actually putting it on this list. That is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, the ebook version of it, since I backed the secret projects. I backed it for the physical, but since ebook came even with the physical backer tier, that means that I got the rest of the book. So I don't know if you can get back to that artwork there. I don't know if you can see that super well since this specific webcam doesn't really focus on things that are close to it super well, so I apologize if that's blurry. However, this is one that, for whatever reason, I was actually tempted to start reading it immediately just because it looked so cool, like, honestly. And I did read, I want to say, the first several paragraphs, or I read the first, like, three, I want to say. Let me look. Yeah, so it's the first like 3 or 4 paragraphs are just like a sentence. I read a few paragraphs, but then I was like, no, I do not have time for this. I'm going to go ahead and stop. Not to mention the fact that that would have been, if I had decided to continue reading, that would be my first Brandon Sanderson book, and that is not what I was planning at all. I plan to read Wheel of Time starting in 2023. If I could angle my finger, there we go, up on this shelf. I was planning to start this in 2023. And it would probably take me until at least late 2024, probably into 2025, most likely. And the last 3 books being written by Brandon Sanderson were going to be my first Sando reads. But after that, I was going to plan on reading plenty of his stuff in a vaguely published order. So starting with like Elantris, the Mistborn Era 1, and then, doing other stuff in between. Point is, this was one that I obtained technically in December, even I think it was supposed to be in January, because like I said, I did get the email on December 31st. So that is included in the book haul. And that was the last haul of 2022. Kind of weird to think that a whole year of this has gone by, both for my channel and for everything that has gone on, or every other time before this that I did short little stints of YouTube stuff. I only went a few months at a time at most before I got burnt out, depending on the type of work that I did. This feels like a big deal to me to have gone through and released at least one video a week almost every single week throughout the entire year, with only a couple months being exceptions where I released a video every other week because of scheduling reasons, which I learned I could have actually been okay with, releasing a video a week even during that time, but I didn't want to risk saying that I was going to be able to and not actually be able to. So I think for 2023, I'm going to be releasing at least one video every single week for the entirety of the year, but it's going to average probably around 2 videos a week for most of the year, if not more. Like, for example, January and February, it's going to be 3 videos a week for plenty of the weeks. So either way, I don't plan to stop this booktube journey of mine. I very much appreciate any of you who have been watching and supporting me since the beginning, and even those of you who just kind of popped on over the time. I appreciate you guys as well. I know I have my ups and downs in my quantity of content and occasionally in the quality of it, but I genuinely do appreciate all of you guys who watch. So thank you guys for watching this haul. I'll be back again, I believe, on Monday with another review of something. Sorry, not Monday, on Tuesday, I believe, is when I'm going to actually be reviewing Demon in White by Chris Verrocchio, which you might be able to see beneath my bear's feet. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right there. Anyway, this video has gone on a lot longer than I intended for it to. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back again on Tuesday.